What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today we finally can bring you an update to Branded. That's right, Branded Fusion came back to 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if on the next list, a good few months down the line, it comes back to 3, so be prepared. Anyway, I'm going to be bringing you a deck list for Branded post the most recent Forbidden and Limited list. So this one is a massive shout out to both James and Charlie. They are the local Branded players from my area. Now, they both had 2 different strategy approaches, which was really kind of cool. So I've been able to merge the hybrid to get it to the playstyle that I prefer, but they really did help give me some suggestions, some couple of ideas. And as a note, there is one card missing in the main deck. It is Branded in High Spirits. I couldn't find my copies, but in its place, I've utilized Forbidden Droplet. So when I show you that later on, just remember that can also be Branded in High Spirits to increase your consistency. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Now, as another side note as well, remember on the 23rd of October, we will be getting the Chronicles deck, which is a full 50 card foil deck, which will involve pretty much most of these Branded cards as well. So you don't need to pay huge extraordinary prices for these cards. You should be able to pick them up relatively cheaply as well. So you're going to be starting off with 3 of your Fallen of Albaz. Now you want to be maxing out on pretty much most of your starters being Albaz, Cartasia, and of course the Aluba. For the pure fact that they are going to be able to utilize so much more. Like if you open up Albaz plus Cartasia, you've got the ability to normal summon the Cartasia and you guarantee yourself a fusion play. The ideal scenario is you're going to want to normal summon your Aluba, and the big difference now with Branded Fusion, only by increasing it by 1 additional available copy, but it means that an Imperm or a Veiler or some sort of negation on the Aluba is not the end of the world. Not that it was completely in the first time, but now it just gives you that little bit more of extra consistency because you get to go, well, I might already hard open up that Branded Fusion and then kind of go from there. Then we do have 3 Blazing Cartasia the Virtuous. Now before a lot of you ask, I do have the alt arts for Cartasia and Aluba. I don't have any for Albaz. I was semi-tempted, but then I was like, you know what, I actually prefer the original artwork of Albaz, but I love the alt art for Cartasia and I love the alt art for Aluba. But these are your ideal starters. The Cartasia having that quick effect to fusion and then constantly always being able to re-loop it back in the hand, maintaining that hand advantage, which is what gives the edge to something like Forbidden Droplet a little bit more. Then 3 Aluba, the Jester of Despian. So this being the card that gets you direct access to your Branded Fusion just means it's always going to be a core component for the strategy. Being able to utilize that to get you direct access to any Branded spell, should you want to, but more times than not you're going for Branded Fusion, and if you don't add Branded Fusion, your opponent's going to know you've got Branded Fusion in the hand. Now more times than not, most players, if they do have an Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, will hold that for a Branded Fusion. That's where this deck can really start to take advantage of that because they have additional cards, stuff like Foolish Burial technically as well, but they also have Fusion Deployment, they've got stuff like your Branded Opening. There's just so many little core pieces that can kind of tick you advantage past the Branded Fusion, and it's kind of evolved, which I thought was really, really cool when Branded Fusion did go to 1, is that a lot of decks started to evolve and go, right, what other ways do I have to perform a Fusion Summon without needing to rely on Branded Fusion, and now we've kind of been rewarded by saying, right, here you go, Branded Fusion can now come back to 2. The other one we've got is the 1 Quem. I believe I only own 1. I thought I had 2, but I might have put 1 somewhere. You could play this at 2 if you wanted to. I'm kind of quite happy with it at 1. I did also used to like the Nadir Servant package as an alternative option should you get Ash Blossomed on your Branded Fusion, but you don't even really need to rely on that anymore because, like I said, the deck has evolved to have so many more alternative options to Fusion Summon, not just relying on your Branded Fusion play. We've got the 1 Macoria and then the 1 Kit backed up by 1 Albion as well. Now sometimes in a different build, if you're going for a 50 card build, you will increase the ratios of some of these cards, more so the Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, and then that's probably where you'd lean into a secondary Quem. But because I like to keep my personal Branded deck build to about 40 unless I'm playing an Archmage hybrid, you kind of want to keep it around that level for a bit of consistency, but again, to each their own, you can adapt it as you see fit. Then for the additional Despian cards, we've got the 1 Tragedy and the 1 Ad Libitum. For the Bystials, we've kept this very simple in the 1 Saronir, the 1 Lubellion, and then of course the 1 Branded Lost to get off of the back of all of this, because the idea is that your Saronir will get you to your Lost, or the Saronir can get you to your Lubellion, and so on and so forth. You've just got so many different ways to loop this card around, and once you have this card in action, or like in action and active and everything else like that, it just makes your Fusion Summons so much more incredibly hard to stop, and so much harder to interact with as well. It's really, really important. Then moving on to the Mac Daddy. The Mac Daddy is now back at 2. That is right, you can now play 2. Oh, feels so good. Branded Fusions. So Branded Fusion now coming back to 2. Like I've mentioned, I would not be surprised if this does come back to 3 on the next list. Yes, Branded might still be able to put some work in, but I feel that what made Branded an issue in the past was the Nightmare Puppet Lock. People are still playing the Ido Lock. It's in a side deck. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think that it's kind of... I think Branded can play a lot better than that. Like, I think they are better than an Ido Lock. And Ido Lock can technically be outed with certain decks right now because a lot of decks are playing higher level monsters that some people are tribute setting over them, which is a little bit different from the OCG. That being said, I still feel that Branded Fusion is an absolute incredible card just in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! In general, and it's kind of been a predecessor or like a follower of Shaddoll Fusion, and it's just always amazing to see all of these different fusion spells start to evolve and adapt. And you look at Rahu Dragontail, where Konami probably looked at it and was like, well, Branded Fusion was a little bit too insane. Like, to let them use both materials from the deck is a little bit crazy, so let's let them use one material from the deck and then one from the hand. So it's a little bit of a weaker Branded Fusion, but then the Mac Daddy has come back himself. Then moving on to the other power spells you've got is free fusion deployment. I can't wait to get the alt art. Like, I've seen the alt art for the branded version, which I'm assuming we're going to get in the Chronicle deck, and it looks absolutely incredible. So super, super excited about this. But this giving you direct access to go in second. You go for Fallen of Albaz, which can help threaten to break your opponent's field or at least take care of one of their extra deck monsters. And then going first, you get direct access to Cartasia. You get direct access to Albaz if you need it, and it's another way of being able to play it around Ashes as well. Then we've got free branded opening. More times than not, you're going to activate this during the draw phase. This just gives you the ability to discard as effect, and then add, so it gives you direct access to your Aluba, which gives you even more consistency to get you to your branded fusion. And in ideal scenarios, if you're able to discard a tragedy, happy days, but that's not always going to be the case. Carrying on with our other spells, we've got the one branded in red. And then a personal favourite for mine, this format, is Super Polymerization. I just think it's so incredibly powerful, and especially in a deck like this where you can utilise it to increase your field presence but also be able to disrupt your opponents, is absolutely insane with no response. What I really like about Super Polymerization, and specifically in a deck like Branded, when you're trying to keep it to 40 cards, you have less space to have a bit more of a range for hand traps. If you're bumping up to a 50 card build, that's when you can start adding in stuff like Call by the Grave, you can add in Cross-Out Designator, and then you start to experiment with other hand traps. You look at more effective ones like Nibiru's, Drolls, Ashes, you name it. Whereas I think when you're trying to keep it to a 40 card build, you want to make sure that you are playing the strongest individual cards. And when you're looking at Branded, the strongest individual cards you can get away with will be stuff like Super Polymerization, Triple Tactics Thrust, and that's kind of what I decided to lean into a little bit more, because it means that you can condense your space a bit more, manage the 40 card build rather than a 50 card build, but then still have great success when you're trying to break fields and put a part into your strengthest plays and go from there. Speaking of, we also are playing free Triple Tactic Thrust. So remembering, going second gets you direct access to your branded fusion. Going second can also get you direct access to fusion deployment if you already have your branded fusion. Going first, if you do get Ash Blossomed on your branded fusion, the card you're going to want to go to is your fusion duplication, because then you basically just branded fuse during your opponent's turn. So you do exactly what you wanted to do, just during their turn instead, and get the exact same outcome. Then I do play free Multrami Fuelos. You don't have to. This is again one of them examples that I mentioned earlier where you're trying to condense the space that you have, so you need to play the most effective cards that will either net you a decent amount of additional advantage or will kind of reserve your opponent from making their strongest field possible. Then the final card is free Forbidden Droplet. As previously mentioned, between the Fuelos and the Droplet, if you wanted to, you can put Branded in High Spirits in. I highly advise you put Branded in High Spirits in. I just couldn't find my copies, so I ultimately ended up going for Forbidden Droplet, which I feel is still just an effective version. Again, with Branded in High Spirits, you kind of decide what type of build you want to go for, how consistent you want it to be. If you're going to a 50 card, maybe you need more ways to get to your Branded in High Spirits than to get you into access of the rest of your core components. On the flip side, if you're playing 40 card, maybe you don't feel that you need that consistency level and you're happy with it enough, and you feel that you want more go second cards or breaker cards and everything else in between. So when you actually look at it, we've opened up the space technically for, maybe you could argue, 12 kind of hand trap-esque, breaker-esque cards, but I feel Super Poly is just such incredibly powerful right now. So is Triple Tactic Thrust, technically, especially with the amount of times your opponent is playing during your turn. Like, if they summon down a K9 card, you go, okay, great, Thrust, grab access to your Branded Fusion, and then Branded Fuse turn 0. So you could cut Thrust to 2 if you wanted to, you could cut Droplet to 2, and then that's when you added in 2 Branded in High Spirits, but that will really come down to, you know, your play style and your overall deck building capabilities and kind of like preferences. Moving on to the extra deck, so for the extra deck we are on 2 Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. So this is your Mac Daddy boss monster, absolutely incredible core component for the branded strategy in general. Backed up by 2 Albion. How during this entire period did this card never get a QC upgrade? Like, every other branded monster got a QC upgrade, except this one, and it just makes no sense because this is like the best one of all of them. Maybe it's going to get a Starlight update, maybe it'll be one of the Starlight options in the Chronicle decks, I just don't know, but this card deserves an upgrade. Speaking of which, its younger brother, or its originator, I guess, obviously they're all the same card, but you kind of get what I mean. Like, this kind of evolves and moves its way on, but you got the 1 Lubellion, 1 Grand Grignol. You can play 2 of this if you want to. I decided not to, and for the reason for that one is, number 1, I think I only own 1. Again, I haven't found my second copy, so I can't remember if I traded it a long time ago or what. But then I also quite like playing a card that Charlie also likes playing, and it's probably more for like past memories of how this card has actually really helped me, and I'll explain that when I get to it. We've got the 1 Rinbrum, the 1 Albion the Sanctified Dragon, the 1 Titaniclad, the 1 Brigand. So the idea behind all of these different branded like fusion monsters is I don't own an Alba system. That's not I can't find an Alba system like the other ones, I just don't own one. I was waiting to pick up a Starlight Rare. I've seen them at like £30 and I was like, I'll wait a little bit, maybe it'll come down in price, and it's actually rocketed in price, so maybe I have to just settle for the secret for now. But in the place of the Brigand, the Glory Dragon, that's when you'd play your Alba system. Still an incredibly powerful win Morcon, but it's still an option that if you do get into this dire grind state, you go, cool, boom, go into this card, and this card completely clears everything off. Then for your other generic kind of monsters, you've got the 1 Light and Darkness Dragon. Just being able to make this will always chain block your Branded Fusion, so absolutely beautiful. Guardian Chimera, we all know how powerful Guardian Chimera is in the branded strategy. And then for our Super Body targets, 1 Despian Proskelion. So this is the card that I was talking about for the second Grand Grignol. Now, sorry Rob on this one, but when I was facing Sword Soul way back in the day, I was able to go normal summon Aluba. They chained Baron to negate the Aluba. I chained Super Poly using my Aluba plus, and they had, I believe it was a Yugioh and a Chengying or something on the field. They had a light and a dark basically. It was the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi and a Yugioh, and I Super Polyed my Despian plus those 2 to get into the Proskelion. The Proskelion then killed the Baron and then revived the Baron. So I was like, oh my god. So I really like this card. It's very specific. It is only against light and dark decks where it will really start to shine, but I just like it as a cool option. And then the final 2 Super Poly targets being the 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp and the Grua, just so you've got those generic options available to you, so you can kind of help technically break any type of field. You can adapt these Super Poly elements if you want to, but remember, if you have access to a light monster, a dark monster, or just a monster summoned from the extra deck, you're already going to get that when you add an Albaz to the field, which can all come off the back of something like a Fusion Deployment. Because the best thing about that one is if you go Fusion Deployment, bring out your Albaz, and then use Albaz's effect to discard, and they go, cool, negate it, then of course you can chain Super Poly. Not in an ideal scenario do you want to do that, because that will burn you through 2 cards in your hand, but more times than not what you do is you'll bring out the Albaz, they'll probably panic a little bit, and then you don't even use Albaz's vet, and you just go, cool, Super Poly, and then like, oh, I can't respond to that, but I could have responded to like Albaz, so it's really kind of cool. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please let me know in comments down below. In regards to something like a side deck, what you'd be looking for in a deck like this is if you're playing Branded in High Spirits, that's when you'd probably go for Dark World No Mores rather than Forbidden Droplets. If you want to be playing the Ido Lock, you can do. I'm just not a personal fan of it. I don't like just lock, my opponent can't play the game kind of thing. I feel that, you know, you want a bit of back and forth. Now, obviously, in this scenario that we're in right now with the current state of the game, maybe you want it to be a little bit more like that. But honestly, Ido side deck, I'm never going to main it. I don't like maining it. So going forward, I just don't think it needs it, to be honest. I think it could be so much better. I'll also could give you a couple of examples of what was in some of the other side decks. You've got like Rasphere mode, Lightning Storms, Dusters, D-Barriers, Masquerade Dragon, which honestly you don't need anymore. That was only pretty much used as a a win con back in the day. You've got the Nadir package if you wanted to do that. You've got some other additional extra deck monsters should you want to give them a role as well. It really kind of comes down to your personal playstyle and build. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do like, comment, subscribe, share. Any questions at all, comments down below. Always happy to answer them. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.